Welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast with Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Direct, soulful, comedic, advice for female chiropractors' most stagnating questions. Let's talk business, marriage and relationships, momming, and self-development. Here's your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick.
Hey, She Slayers. This is your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and this is the official first Sunday of 2020, which means we're doing a mashup. This episode is really fun. I thought it would be less work because I didn't have to sit down and talk for an hour. In fact, it was substantially more work because we had to go back and listen through hours and hours of content, finding the best parts of the best episodes. But I'm so excited for you to listen to this. It is really cool to look back on 2019 and think that like the first quarter, this podcast wasn't even an idea. And then by the end of 2019, some of the conversations that were had and like distributed to people in the world were powerful and funny and controversial. And I know this sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I really freaking love what this podcast is doing and the space that we have created to have conversations like this. So I need to let you know that we did not have time to go through every single episode because there were 31 awesome episodes. And we just didn't have the manpower to comb through every single one. So what we did is we looked back on only conversations that I had with other people. So there's no like solos of just me. Maybe in 2020, there'll be a just Lauryn's greatest hits type thing. Don't worry. You know I will make Kirby make like a video montage of my greatest hits at some point. But that's not this. So this is only conversations with other people. And we looked at the ones that got the most shares, the most likes, the most listens. And we threw out a couple things on social media asking you, like, what were your favorites? And so these were the ones that were voted on the most. So if you were on the show and your clip is not in here, oh my God, I am so terribly sorry. Know that I don't let anything onto this show that I don't love. So if you were a guest and you made it into an episode, you rock. I liked the episode for sure. And in 2020, maybe at the end of 2020, when we're doing a recap, we'll have like a part 1, 2, or 3. Again, you notice all the work I'm creating for Kirby, and we can get every guest on. Okay. So before we start, I do need to tell you, so there was an episode 10, Megan Sanvey, and we're going to actually hear from Megan later, like my favorite part of our conversation. But Megan she's not a chiropractor, but she's a health and fitness expert and coach. And she actually has a brand new 8-week program coming up called Muscles and Mindset. Okay, so it starts on Monday, January 13th. And like I said, this is 8 weeks, and it's going to take you through literally everything you need to know to harness the power of your mind and conquer any negative relationships that you may have with your food or your body. And for those of you that have just been on this journey with me, you know that I really value Megan. She shares in her episode some of her journey. The best coaches have been through it, have been through the war, and have like persisted and conquered on the other end. So like all the crazy thoughts in your head that you don't think anybody else can relate to, Megan can. So Megan has worked with a lot of ladies. She's been doing this for multiple years, but I think this is the first time she's actually done a 8-week program like this. And the women she's worked with have reported that for the first time in their life, they're not consumed with thoughts of food, and they've learned how to actually trust their bodies and had like a total mindset shift in their confidence with their bodies and their relationship with food in the mirror. So what you're going to get in this program is you will receive full access to Megan. Now, she told me to say 24/7, and I said, I don't think that's a good idea because what if people message you at 1 a.m? I can tell you that I have messaged Megan very late in the night, with negative thoughts that I'm thinking, like about like, oh, I just like shameful thoughts, like why did I eat that and blah, blah, blah. And she has answered. And I'm like, okay, maybe she does mean 24/7. But you're going to get complete access to her. And she's going to help you rewire your brain and stop that self-sabotaging patterns. A lot of time with this, you need an accountability partner. Like as chiropractors, we tell people we're going to rewire your neurology, and it requires consistency and repetition and support. And she's going to be that for you. She's going to help identify and put an end to what your specific negative cycles are. And that way, when you know exactly what yours are, you can finally have a game plan to have freedom from negative thoughts and with food. So the program includes one-on-one calls, customized workout plans. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I have to tell you about the workout plans. I started doing her workouts in June. My body is different than it has ever been. I've never had this much muscle and definition and tone. Because I just wasn't comfortable lifting weights. I would like use the little machines, but I would be like a cardio queen and then like wonder why things weren't changing. So she's going to really help with specific workouts, doing fun things. If you're like, oh, I hate burpees. Okay, she won't put burpees in. I personally hate Turkish get-ups more than anything in life. And so I was like, I cannot do workouts with Turkish get-ups. So she's going to make these customized to you. And there's going to be education models to give you health tools that you can utilize for the rest of your life. So if you're ready to finally make peace with food and your body and find confidence in that body again, that maybe you haven't had since like pre-pubescence, that like naked little 4-year-old that ran around that just like didn't think any shame or judgment, like maybe you can get back to that confidence. And you can understand exactly how to master your mindset so you can make changes that will last your entire life. This program will be perfect for you then. So launches first come, first serve. Once the spaces are gone, they're gone. So if you're thinking about it, you need to connect to Megan right away. So to reach out and connect with Megan to sign up for Muscles and Mindset, go to fitandfierce.co/workwithme. And we'll also have a link up on our site. So you can just go to sheslayspodcast.com and you can click on that to connect with Megan. So when you sign up, here's the big deal. Mention She Slays and you are going to save $100 on the program. Okay? So it's a big deal, guys. I cannot support Megan enough and believe in what she's doing. She is wonderful. All right. So before we kick off clip 1, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little prayer because damn, if there was a time to thank God for everything, it is when we're reflecting on 2019. Dear God, 2019 was hard, yo. Oh my gosh. Next time, can you give me like a forewarning of like, oh, all these goals are really cute. I'm gonna shake your shit up, girl. I don't know that I'm at a point where I can like 100% say I'm thankful for the lessons, but I am. I know that lessons in life are necessary and that you have such greater things planned than I couldn't even imagine right now. When I was going into 2019, this podcast was not on the radar. And my plans that I was taking from 2018 into 2019 would have just continued down a very interesting path that you did not have for me. So thank you for making abrasive disruptions in that path and guiding it towards this. Thank you for each person who's been a part of this podcast, whether they are on the other side of this listening and supporting. Please let them know how much that supporting a girl helps. And for each person who's been on the show, those that were able to make a second appearance today and not, I am eternally grateful for their piece in this. Continue to use this to help others. Use this as a platform for your glory and not mine. In your name, we pray. Amen. Okie dokie. So we're going to kick this off with our first clip. This is a conversation I had with Dr. Kate Jones in episode 25. Okay, I will tell you, Kate Jones is like me. Girlfriend Needs a Podcast because she drops F-bombs like I do, and she just goes straight to it. We were answering a question on overwhelm and the feelings of trying to do it all. So this is definitely one of my favorites episodes. She's not an amateur when it comes to sharing her truth and laying it all on the line with no sugarcoating. So here is episode 25 with Kate Jones.
Self-care doesn't necessarily need to be like, I sit in a room and somebody braids my hair and like rubs essential oils on me for 3.5 hours. Like, it doesn't need to be this fucking extensive spa weekend thing, right? Like, that's another misconception about self-care. Also, self-care doesn't need to be this like, well, fuck you, I need this time for me. So like, screw you and your needs. It doesn't need to be that either. It's like, you just communicate what your needs are, find things that work both for you and the people that you need in order to support you, and then figure out how to get your needs met, right?
Yep.
But it's being direct and prioritizing yourself. And I love that she brought up the point, like, I keep putting myself at the bottom of the list of the priorities. I was taking care of a woman, incredible woman at the practice, really amazing job. And she was 2 kids, like tons of shit going on all the time. And she said, like, in this past year, one of her biggest things and one of her biggest mantras was like, I'm moving up the list. And having that concept for yourself of like, I'm moving up the list of, okay, there's a lot that's going on, but I have to start moving myself up the list, because if I'm continually trying to give out of like an empty tank, then I'm really just showing up as a really shitty version of myself in a whole bunch of places, rather than being my most potent version of myself in the places that I really want to be. Absolutely. So when we look at trying to fit in these places, there's 2 concepts I want to introduce. Is one, finding your sacred spaces throughout your day. So some of that might be that quiet of 5 a.m. And I've oscillated between, having a really regimented morning routine that like gets done in the early morning. And I've also had ones that, can kind of extend throughout the day. And I get like my movement, breathwork, meditation in throughout the day. You can do abbreviated versions of this too. We're currently doing like a Kairos Presence mastermind group that's been going. We're in the 12th week of 12 weeks with a group of 10 people. And it's been really beautiful to see like how that, commitment to those types of things really does cause an amazing shift within people. And so finding, okay, if I know that like these are things that I need, how can I set my day up and how can I end my day with things that are beautiful? Brett talks a lot about this as well, as like having a morning routine, having an evening routine. And what does that look like for you? And so that might be, I need to get up 30 minutes earlier so that I can, gently move through all the joints of my body, even if that's just my morning routine, do 10 big breaths and then sit in silence for 2 minutes.
Yep.
That can be something that is just an easy add, because we also try to put self-care and putting ourselves as a priority as this like, well, if I don't have like 3 hours to do this, then I guess I can't. But it's like, it can be 15 minutes and that's okay. It's just the dedication of waking
present and conscious.
It's presence and consciousness. And so
that's such a good point. I want you to make sure you hit that second point. But you're so right. We're like, I don't have an extra 2 hours or an extra hour in my day. And it's like, well, can you find 4 15-minute chunks?
Yeah.
And being like, this is my 15 minutes and not wasting a second on like, okay, but hold on, I just have to like send that email. And it's like, no, start now, breathe and meditate right now.
Yep. And so even, and knowing like, okay, what is it that I need? What is it that I need to delegate, and where am I willing to delegate and where do I not want to delegate? It's like, I don't want to delegate bedtime, but I could delegate doing somebody else doing my laundry. Or like, I don't want to, I don't want to do the grocery shopping. It takes an hour for me to like, or an hour and a half for me to go do this. It's like, what do you need to outsource potentially to free up your time in order for you to be doing the things that you really want to be doing?
Okay, sorry, I had to cut that off short. You wanted to keep listening, didn't you? I know, but that's what this is. These are clips. I'm sorry. You can go back and listen. Episode 25. That was such a good one. All right, so strolling right into our next clip is a conversation that I had pretty early on. I believe this was my very first guest on the show. It's Dr. Krysti Wick in episode 4. Dr. Krysti is a chiropractic coach for females, and she's amazeballs. I have this girl on speed dial and leave her very long rambling messages, usually while running, and my brain, because my brain does all sorts of things while running. And, like sometimes good, sometimes a little midlife crisis. It's all good. What am I doing with my life, Krysti? But she's a godsend. And so in this conversation, you're going to jump into us talking about finding pace. This is from a question from a woman who is like struggling between striving and burnout. So this little clip doesn't even do it justice. So go check out the entire episode, number 4. But here we go. Dr. Krysti Wick and I jumping in on striving and burnout.
First, she kind of describes it as very black and white. Like you are either striving and pushing for more, or you are complacent and stagnant. Mm-hmm. And I just can't, it's so far from the truth in life, but it can feel that way. Like there's so many people that can make it feel that way. So I think the first thing we have to really just dissect for her is striving for more and not being thankful for what you have. That's not synonymous. Like those are not, like it doesn't have to be one or the other. There's so much gray area in between, but the gray area is where people feel weird and icky and they just don't know how to navigate that gray area. So it's like, well, I'm either way over here on this side of the pendulum, or I'm way over here on the side of the pendulum. Because even, thinking about being thankful for what you have and coasting, also not synonymous. So, there's so many people that have a system or, something in play that they're using for motivation to grow their business, to grow their life, whatever it is, but they still have massive daily gratitude practices. And they still are super thankful for everything they have. And if you would ask them, I guarantee that they'd be like, if I didn't reach those goals, I still would know how to be super thankful for everything that's already happened in my life. So I think the first thing for Danielle and for anyone else that's listening, and this is a common affliction, you have to ask yourself, what about the gray area is uncomfortable for you? So why is it one or the other? And if the universe continues to throw up these red flags that striving for more is exhausting, the gray area might be uncomfortable because you don't know if the whole more that you're striving for is the right more. Like maybe you're not going towards something that's actually what you want. Maybe you have a really specific thing in your brain of what you think your life should look like, or you're modeling it after something else that you've seen. And the universe is giving you fantastic signs to say, this might be what you think you want, but is it really attached to a why or something deep for you? And I think a lot of people get uncomfortable in the gray area because they haven't spent enough time really asking themselves what they want and what that's going to mean to them. And so they just feel like they need to kind of check some boxes, or, like she put, strive for more because that's what you're supposed to do in life. Where, that might not necessarily be as fulfilling as she would like it to be. So yeah. I think she just has to break down those sides and figure out what about being in the middle at times is uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, like, damn, I'm so glad I had you on, because I'm like, oh shit. Yes, that is totally, so that gray area is exactly so I feel like my pendulum about a year and a half ago was like way over in this, like, crushing goals, like taking names, just like, accomplishing stuff. That's how I became what I am and blah, blah, blah. And then like the little guy inside started to like go, well, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? And I'm like, so then I kind of like pendulum, huge swing over here of like, now I want nothing and I'm going to give all of my money away. And I remember somebody literally said, like, I don't know, maybe you're going to be like a Buddhist monk. And I was like, maybe I will. I don't know. And so then, that was another pendulum swing, right? Like, so it was like, obviously just God had given me certain driver and talents and things like that. And so he didn't want me to be over there either. And that wasn't natural for me. So then it kind of like swung into this gray area, which is so freaking uncomfortable because I don't know what to do. Like when I feel like with the ditch on each side of the roads or the pendulum on each side, there's like when you have an extreme, it's very almost like caricature of like, well, this is what that person would do. When it's like when you have in your mind an idea of like what, the Brenda Burchards and the Tony Robbins and the Rachel Hollises, you're like, what would they do? Well, they would get up at 5 a.m. and they would never stop. And like, we're just so like, and like you said, like, that's not actually probably what they do, but we create this caricature of a driver and successful person. And so it's easy to go there. But then on the other side, we've got this caricature of like Jesus or Buddha. And we're like, well, what would they do? Well, they wouldn't care about how much money they brought in. And they wouldn't care about how many Instagram likes. And in between, it's like, who are those examples? And the big reason that, I like what you said, like these steps of, these are the steps to figure out your gray area. And why I think so many people don't do what you recommended is fear that when they actually stop to think about, like, is what I'm going for congruent with my vision or this or that, it almost freaks them out that they may have wasted some time. Or, like people are just implicitly, is that the word? More innately afraid of change. And so it's like, well, I don't want to stop and question my values and what I'm going for or whether that's actually good, because shoot, what if I wasted the last 4 years and I'm afraid to acknowledge like, oh shoot, maybe I've been driving towards the wrong thing.
Yeah, I told you she's really good, isn't she? So yeah, you can find Dr. Krysti. She's everywhere on the internet. I don't have her website in front of me. I think, it's the illuminatedsquad.com. That's what it is. Or you can just find her on Instagram at Dr. Krysti, and Krysti is Krysti. Okay, so before we jump into the next clip, I have to take a sec to tell you, even though this isn't a clip, I need to do a shout out to one of my favorite products that I talked a lot about in 2019. And these are the hand-painted watercolors from Sandy Spines. So if you haven't moseyed on over to her Etsy store, Sandy Spines, these are gorgeous watercolors of musculoskeletal paintings. I follow Sandy on Instagram. She just graduated. She's like getting her pilot's license. The girl's got like a banging side gig with the Sandy Spines, and the talent that she has is just amazing. So go fill your clinics with these artworks. They're gorgeous. And you can get 10% off your entire purchase at the Etsy store using promo code SheSlays. Okay. So next on the replay is a little clip from a more recent conversation with Dr. Nona Djavid in episode 29. Nona and we have such a similar story, except she went to Berkeley and I went to UW La Crosse, Wisconsin. And the fact that she was born in a foreign country and I just follow the Kardashians very closely. But basically everything else is very similar. In this clip, Dr. Nona, we actually took a question from a guy who she's coaching, and he's got a very successful practice already, and he's trying to pivot it into something more meaningful and fulfilling. So Dr. Nona's episode is episode 29, and here is a little taste from that episode.
How fast do you think you can pivot a brand? So like, let's say this guy, part of what he doesn't like is they're very PI heavy. And we have some non-chiros that stands for personal injuries. So it's basically like work comp and auto injuries. And that is a very lucrative, for the most part. And in some states, it's much more lucrative than others. Where Wisconsin, like looking over at Minnesota, Minnesota's a huge PI state. But so let's say he said like, they pay, but like, how do I start like all of his marketing is in PI. And we're really going down a rabbit hole of specificity, but I think people could apply this in different ways. Like, how quickly would you recommend, like, what would be the steps of the timeline of like, all right, you don't want to market to PI anymore? And he's like, no, I don't want to market to PI anymore. I want to market to like boomers who want to like live wellness and all that jazz.
Yeah. So the answer is yes, it depends. So I guess if someone came to me and they were in that situation, it's like, okay, well, how deep is your desire to go from PI to this totally opposite of the spectrum? And how fast are you willing to implement? And, your speed of implementation, right? Like if we decide on something, like, are you going back to the practice and putting it in literally that same day? I would say, and a good average in that extreme example would be about a year that it would take that they could transition, because you're right. Like, and going from PI to like completely cash. What I would encourage someone like that, if they came to me and if they're running because I'm not just looking at, okay, this is what you want, let's do all this other, but I need it to be profitable. I'm the type A that's like looking at the numbers and making sure that we're measuring everything, right? So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that they do it right away either, per se. I might suggest, okay, well, you've lost your purpose because you've seen so much PI. What can we do in this existing practice to give you that fire, or to give you that purpose back in a PI practice? And I've done that too. Mm-hmm. And I think, but if it was a smaller shift, like, okay, I'm seeing I don't know, like random people, and I want to switch to kids with autism, something like that, then I would say that also depends on you, how fast you want to go. And I always say that speed of implementation, like if you just, the people that are massively successful, they're making decisions right and left. And that decision could be a no, it could be a yes, but it's never a maybe. And it's usually right away. Right? Like, oh, maybe, because the longer you think about something, that speed of implementation, if it's taking you a long time to decide, oh, am I going to do a workshop, or am I going to have the spouse to come in? Then you start to talk yourself out of it or into something else. And, and we tend to do that as human beings. And so it never gets done. Okie dokie, we are rolling right along, and a replay and reflection of 2019 would just not be complete without my girl, Dr. Denisa Weber, on this. So this is episode 13, and oh my gosh, this chick also gets rambling messages from me, usually in the form of Marco Polo. Denisa and I are going to the IF gathering in Dallas, Texas in the beginning of February. This is a Christian women leadership conference. It sells out. I am so excited. But she's my soul sister who will quote Bible verses, and I have seen her talk from stages, and this girl preaches like she's a pastor's daughter. She's not, but she carries the faith and conviction that she might as well be. So in this clip, we're answering how to incorporate faith into your work. All right, so here is episode 13 with Dr. Denisa Weber.
And I think it's like, be humble, stay hungry, always hustle.
That's Kendrick Lamar, actually, who said, bitch, be humble. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
No, okay, who was the name? Who H3 Leadership? Who wrote it?
Brad Lomenick. He was a Catalyst leader. But anyway, so in his book, he talks about calling versus assignment. And what you're kind of talking and discussing is more of kind of like, hey, I feel this purpose and this calling. And that calling can permeate into any assignment. But currently, how we were talking in January, and even what I have like up here is be where your feet are. And that's like our biggest saying in our family. And it's actually Tristan's quarterback's like saying for the season is be where your feet are. And it's more of like the assignment is where my feet are, but my calling can go into any lane whatsoever. So if it's like, for me, I'm wanting to equip, encourage, and empower, but I can do that in any kind of assignment. And I'm not tied to my assignment, but I'm tied to my calling. And that's way more freeing And so if my assignment is chiropractic, which it is, my feet are in the chiropractic profession, but I'm also in like coaches' wives' land. And I'm also just like, depending upon where you're at, and you're just more of like, how can I where have I been called, where, you know, God's placed me, and how can I purposely and intentionally, you know, just surrender to what he wants me to be in with these groups, you know, and that's where you're wanting to be where your feet are.
Right.
So that's why we anchor to that.
Yeah. I think it's Paul actually who wrote, like, in Corinthians, we put it on signs all over IKEA, but it's like the idea of like bloom where you're planted. And, you know, in it, he goes on to write that, like, basically wherever you were, wherever you found yourself when you converted, or like discovered Jesus, like that's where he wants you, type of thing. It's funny, he goes on then like a big old rampage about how, like, if you're single, like, you should stay single. And I'm like, ooh, this must be really hard. I'm really glad I was married when I found Jesus.
Apparently knew what marriage entailed.
I'm like, seriously, marriage.
I watch my friends go through this. I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's kind of this idea of like, I feel like he anticipated what so many new believers were going to go through, of like, you see this amazing discovery, this passion, this purpose that's so deep than anything you've ever experienced. And then you're like, well, I want that. And it's like, no, you need to bring that to where you are, you know, like spread. The whole purpose is to spread, not for all the believers to come just to hang out with other believers. Like, no. Like, go get out of the church, go do and spread that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading Melinda Gates' book right now, Moment of Lift. It's
okay.
It's a relatively new book, and it's about it's really about women's empowerment, like globally. Oh, it's so good. As a chiropractor, I am having to like face certain like health things. Like, I don't know if you've heard, but the Gates are kind of big into vaccines. And so it's just like, you know, there's an entire chapter, but it is really cool because it like kind of has me check my ego as like, I know how things are not black and white. And it's like, okay, maybe vaccines did save millions of people in foreign countries. Like, okay. But anyway, so I've been thinking about her, and she was talking about how she sat down with a group of women in India talking about sex trafficking. And like, she's just talking about the work that she and the Gates Foundation has done. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And then, because I was listening to it on the way over here, knowing we were going to be recording this, and I'm just like, you know, does God need her to like save this woman from sex trafficking and then make sure you hand her a Bible? Like, and make sure it's like the King James version, like, right? Like, you're talking about assignment and calling of like, she is living like Christ, which is what we're supposed to be doing. Like, but then we put on all this complicated things of like, but did you convert them? So like, I don't know. She saved their freaking life and like did it through kindness and love.
Yeah. And I can't remember where it's at in the scripture. It's just more of like, you're planting the seed and you're watering the seed. Like, I think it's actually it might have been Paul, where he's not trying to take credit for people's conversions, because people were starting to count how many people Peter converted versus Paul. And it was all this exactly what people do, pridefully start keeping score and numbers. And he's like, it's not about that. It's not about who did what. And when, like he was like, so-and-so may have like planted it. So-and-so may have watered it. Then the person convert, like all these different things had to happen in order for that person to come to finally like decide that they were going to follow Jesus. And that's not my conversion. Like, and so it was just more of like them not, it's like, hey, take that off. It's not about keeping score. It's about like just knowing and trusting. And I even spoke with this on Focus. It was like, even about chiropractic is like, hey, you know, you can plant the seed for people, but don't stop putting the expectation and the weight on your shoulders that you need to like have them understand chiropractic to the depth and level that you think that they should in order for them to get in your door. Like, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So same thing with like Jesus. We don't want to be like, I mean, take the weight off your shoulders. You just need to do like, exactly, is it loving on that person in the moment? Yes. You know, like just be there, do like love on people. And if anything, Jesus always circles back around. He's like, people, I love on people. I love on people. It's really not hard, guys. Watch. I love on people. I love on people.
Yeah.
Guess what I do? I love on people.
Like, it's so simple. We have to make it harder. It's exactly what you like said in the beginning of like, okay, but do I need to hand them something? Do I need to physically pray over it? It's like, oh gosh, just embody Christ. You know, it's that simple, but it's one of the hardest things ever. Like, emit kindness, emit patience.
All right, time for another shout out to one of my greatest supporters in 2019. This is the Progressive app from Connected and Inspire Media. So if you are a chiropractor who has a prenatal or pediatric clinic and you have not checked out this app yet, what are you doing? If adding more value to your clinic is on the list for 2020, giving more resources to your patients that's not going to require more time and energy from you, go check out this app. If you go to SheSlaysPodcast.com/SheSlaysSavings, you can get connected with the Connected and Inspired Media app. It's an app for your clinic that is just full of resources and exercises and stretches for your prenatal and pediatric clinics. It is awesome, and the owners and creators of it are so kind people. I can't even imagine working with nicer people. So this next conversation is actually in person. I don't get to do many in-person conversations. This is with my empath friend, Laura Johnson. She is one of my absolute best friends. She's not a chiropractor. This is episode 17. So Laura is by definition an empath, meaning that she absorbs people's feelings in a way that this narcissistic weirdo cannot even understand. So she's, like I said, she's not a chiropractor, but she is a salon owner and has multiple female employees, I believe 11 female employees, and spends like 2 hours working on people's hair. And because of the laying on hands, anybody who does energy work knows that energy can easily transfer. So this episode is her giving her advice on what she does on helping retain some of that energy throughout her day and giving some tips on like what you can do to save that energy up and not give it all away all day long to your patients. So this is episode 17 with my friend Laura Johnson.
I guess like figuring out, because now like, and maybe it is Brene that made like that word like kind of pop up for people, but like when you can figure out that you are an empath, like it's way easier to like read something or take a quiz, or even like if that's like your baby step into it or any of this is resonating, like do a quick Google search and you can figure out a lot about yourself now. So for me, that made it a lot easier. When I first started doing hair, I just didn't know, like, I was like, I am so fucking exhausted at the end of the day. I'm like, I can't do anything. And I just didn't get why. And also like in the beginning of my career, like when you have all those drain suck clients, like we all have them.
Yes.
Now I can be a little more selective of like who I take for a client and stuff, but it does help that I'm like weaning out those like people because like their energy doesn't match with mine either. And I've kind of like rejected them along the way. So it's way easier for multiple reasons. Like I don't have those people that are horrible. I am able to do way more, like meditating helps a ton. Like I can tuck crystals in my bra. I feel like somebody who thinks that crystals like help. But
Which
there's a
crystal,
lot.
Are there specific crystals that you use?
I kind of grab whatever feels like good that day, but I usually do. Hematite is really heavy. That's like a grounding crystal.
That's black, right?
Yeah, I don't carry those like a ton. It's more like a rose quartz, sometimes a smoky quartz, or a regular quartz are like my big ones that I feel like just kind of help. And if you're a meditator, like that could help as well. Like I don't do like sitting down, like practicing meditating, but like before I go to bed or get up in the morning, like that kind of thing, then I'll just like go through, like set your intention, wash through the day, like see how it feels, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So I do feel like it helps, but it also helps clearing up the negative people.
So like literally clearing like them from your schedule.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And I do feel like we really set the intention at the salon though. Like I have 11, including myself, there's 11 of us. And I just don't feel like we really get those people anymore. Honestly. I don't know. I don't know what it is. We don't get as many of them as we used to. We definitely have, like, let's say, I don't even know how many people we see a week, but like, let's say we see 200 people a week. There's probably less than a dozen that are the ones that really are wasting your time. And if you get a new person in who's like that, generally they just don't mesh.
Right. But so even if, so I mean, those are like the drains, but like most people are not drains. Most people are just normal, but they'll sit in your chair for 2 hours, and most even normal people talk negatively. I mean, right? Like, we're just tend to be kind of like a pessimistic society. What's going on in life? Oh, I'm so busy, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So you're talking about like, you will wear crystals, you'll meditate, and that's how you learn to like just block yourself from absorbing all of that negativity. All right, so going into the next clip, my vulnerability and shame are going to show a little bit here. So this is that conversation with Megan Sanvey in episode 10, who I was talking about earlier, with her muscles and mindset program. So this clip is vulnerable, it's honest, and you're gonna see like this is basically me working with Megan, except we recorded it. And this is similar to what a one-on-one would look like if you worked with Megan in her 8-week muscles and mindset program. She's not going to let you stay superficial. Go back and listen to episode 10. Holy cow. She's going to dig deep through your emotional baggage about your body. It's good. It is raw. And if you can relate to anything I'm saying in this next clip, I highly encourage you to look into Megan's Muscles and Mindset program. Mention promo code SheSlays, and you're going to save yourself $100. And that program kicks off January 13th. Go to our website and click on SheSlays Savings, and we will have a link for you to get to that program. So without further ado, here is episode 10 with Megan Sanvey talking about body love, body shame, and body positivity. So I think I know what you're going to say on this. One of the other main conversations that we keep having, and I would say is a major block still, and I need more coaching on, is this whole self-love acceptance thing. So for people who don't know me, I am like the most confident, insecure person you'll ever meet. It's like anybody who ever hears like, wait a minute, you have any insecurities in life? I'm like, yes, I do. Because I walk around with this, like, there's some things I just don't give a shit. And then all these other things that I care extensively about. Like, why didn't they put a smiley? Like, if my friend doesn't put a smiley face after their text, I'm like, oh my God, she's mad. She's totally mad. And I have called like 6-7 times leaving voicemails. Are you mad at me? I'm really sorry. So anyway, that was just my craziness and ADD coming.
Because we just need some validation.
Right. Yeah. All comes back to that. But this self-love. So when I think of self-love, I think of acceptance. Is this true?
It's a huge part of what self-love is. Self-love is not sunshine and rainbows. It's not every day waking up and loving yourself. I am still on my self-love journey. I think we all continue to be every day. I am a much more evolved person. The story that I've shared with you, Lauryn, and with my listeners over and over again is you cannot change your body if you do not start coming from a place of love. Can you in the short term? Absolutely. Does the short term bring you any kind of actual deep satisfaction or gratitude or love? No. The most miserable time in my life was when I was my smallest. easily 25 pounds smaller than I am now. I was awful human. I hated myself more than I ever have. My body was disgusting. I was disgusting. I was anxious. My life was just crumbling, but it should have been perfect. Like, I was finally small.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, because I still hated myself internally. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, this isn't working. What's wrong? And dove into that avenue of acceptance, which is, like you said, that self-love. It's not, still don't look in the mirror every day and be like, I got it. I love every piece of me. I feel great every day. We were going to do this on Zoom, and I was like, don't judge me because I look like crap today. Like, I still pick up parts of my body, but I can catch myself when I'm doing it, which is the first step of just realizing it and knowing that my outward body is not why people love me. It's not when people think of me, I hope it's my message. I hope it's my spirit. I hope it's my vibrations and energy that people love, not my physicality. And self-love doesn't also mean, great, well, here I am. Like, I'm stuck here. Like, I love myself now. I can never change it. It doesn't mean that we can't. Yeah.
That's the big, like, opposition that I think I know I need to get over, is when I go like, okay, so if I love and accept my body, I associate that with, I accept that this is what I will look like at its peak for the rest of my life, and it won't get better. And so you can imagine that that is something that I actively would like turn and run from, of like, no, I will love my body in 5-10 more pounds. Then I'll accept it and love it for the rest of the life. It can stay that weight and that look for the rest, but I can't accept this yet, because if I accept the way my stomach looks, how would it get more toned? Like, that's what I don't understand, of like, where's the motivation coming from? Oh, this is going to sound icky. My crazy is going to show here. Where does the motivation come from to improve if it's not coming from that asshole inside of us that says like, ew, that's what your stomach looks like?
How do you motivate your employees? How do you motivate your children? Money. That's a good one. That's a positive. Do your children motivate when you tell them that they're worthless piles of crap? Or do they motivate when you give them something positive?
Yeah, definitely more that. So what would that look like? Like, literally, I need you to tell me, like, how would I, so standing in front of a mirror, naked as fuck, and I'm like, that's a stomach that I love, but want to improve. What's the self-talk there? Like, what's the script?
Self-talk, first of all, is looking at your whole package. Are you just your stomach? No. Are there a zillion other things about yourself that you could choose to say that you like? Or are you just going to narrow in on one square inch of your body?
Okay, so now this second to last conversation was a conversation I walked away like, whoa, I think we are going to break the internet with this. We didn't. Apparently there wasn't enough sequins and champagne. If you don't get that reference, I'm sorry. You don't follow the Kardashians enough, or you're too young. I don't know. So I did not. This is episode 22 with Dr. Devin Vrana. This girl is freaking amazing. And to be fair, I did not fully prep her for the hard-hitting questions I was going to give her. But she brought it to the table 100%. I'm not a fan of using more than 100%. I wanted to say 1,000% there, but that's not real. She did 100%. And I didn't plan. I didn't really know. Neither of us knew fully where the conversation was going to go. And when we got done, we were just like, whoa, that was powerful and so beautiful. I will tell you, this is not a light conversation. Go back and listen to the whole thing, because I think it could heal so many issues in our profession and our society between the power struggle between men and women. So this is episode 22 with Dr. Devin Vrana.
Chiropractic's just the microcosm of the macrocosm. It's going on everywhere. The vaccine topic, everything's getting polar, everything. And so how I believe we step forward in this is with some grace and patience, where we stay very true to our authentic nature, and we hold space as we all kind of get uncomfortable in the new comfortable. So
when you say like step forward with grace and patience on both sides, can you actually like tell me what that looks like for a woman?
Yeah.
And then I would love to know picture a man who is nervous, very nervous. Like, I don't know, maybe he like has a female associate, and then tell me like what he could do to like demonstrate grace and patience also. So if you could, what that typically looks like.
We want it now. I'm actually wearing a watch that says now, right? I like here, I want now. If I want it now. We're a now culture. In a process like this, patience to me as a woman is that people are living out their stories that they've learned. People are living out the culture as it was. People are, I apply one of our beautiful 33 principles, which is healing takes time. And so the healing that women have endured is real. And we are still processing those wounds of, physical, verbal abuse and suppression. That was real. We couldn't vote a few years ago. Like, we didn't make this stuff up.
Right.
And so there is a healing process. So we need to be patient with ourselves, that it's not all going to happen immediately. And, and so forgiving the past and being patient in the process of what it's going to take. Look at it now, though. 50-50 graduating classes they're women. It's already happening. So I don't want to stay stuck in the story or stuck in the wound. And I don't want to feed the dragon anymore either. It's time to put the defense down. That's the grace element, where it's like inner world, outer world reflects inner world. So put the sword down, girls. We can be girl power without being aggressive about it, I believe, because I'm a feminist too, but that doesn't mean slay my brothers. So, right? And
in order to heal, we must put the sword down, because, it's going to take both sides to heal, obviously. Oh God. And I just hate like the polarizing talk of this. I imagine you do too, of like, but we have to speak
so real
to where people are of like, okay, in order for us to move forward in society, in the profession, in whatever, as equals, men, women, black, white, any minority and majority coming together, there has to be trust that like, okay, I'm going to put my sword down. And like you said, like, we didn't make this shit up. No. We carry this chip on our shoulders because we saw our mothers, our grandmothers, like, fighting this thing.
And real talk, in chiropractic school, there were times when they used me as a student example and put their hands in places they shouldn't have placed. And yes, I just said that because I know I'm not the only woman, because I go to conferences and I hear from some of them where it's like, we're looked at different, with like the sexual violation that has happened. It's real talk. It has happened. And so I don't want to kick dirt over it either and be like, oh, girls, like, toughen up. I also realize that I have this Hulk crazy fighter energy in me. And I also have this very Mother Teresa. I love everyone. And the authentic Devin, am in between the two of them, and being totally one way or the other does not serve me. So I navigate this conversation and every conversation with, what's true and what serves the highest and greatest good. So, I don't want to be a fighter anymore. That's exhausting. I don't want to be angry all the time. That doesn't get any of us anywhere. I want to be patient, and I want to be kind, and I want to be loving. And that's the world I want for my daughter. And so, and
both sides have to trust. Both sides have to trust of like, all right, I'm going to put down the armor, but like, are you going to show up as an authentic self wanting to move forward and heal also? And like, that's on an individual person to person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that look like for a man? It's so crazy because I immediately think of, I went to Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins, and he talks about this a lot actually, and just how for centuries, it has been a very male dominated world, a masculine, aggressive world, a war driven world. And there is the pendulum swing, but what has happened to some women is we think to step up, we need to be a man. That has created more war. That has created more problems. What needs to happen is we need to step up as ourselves, as women. And when we do that, it's not threatening to men, right? It's not like we're coming to take control. But they don't know how to recognize the difference because they've grown up in the same masculine, aggressive, war-driven world too. It didn't just happen to us, it happened to them too. So what the world needs now is the feminine, patience and grace and nurture. And I think that we're doing it, man. Just you hosting this podcast is doing it.
And lastly, how could any recap be complete of 2019 without a conversation between me and my main squeeze, the man who makes this thing more than just me talking into an unplugged microphone, Kirby Brunslick. So Kirby and I were on multiple episodes together. We actually heard back from a lot of you that those are some of your favorites. But I am too difficult to work with and too stubborn, so this cannot be 100% Kirby and I episodes. He only gets to come on every so often. Now, what I wanted was a mashup of like little bits of our conversations and all of our ridiculousness, but he said that was too much work and that I don't pay him enough. So maybe for Valentine's Day, you guys can get a love montage of our ridiculousness. Because conversations with him are always my favorite. I don't know if it's because we always record them on Friday afternoons and have gin and sodas with us, unless we're detoxing. And even then, he cheats and he gets a gin and soda. Or it's probably because he's so used to my rambling and getting off topic and defensive comments that he can really interpret. He can like bring me back of like full circle, like, okay, hold on, this is what we were talking about. And I mess things up a lot. And so he can interpret what I'm saying if the message just didn't quite get through. So he'll be like, what she means is. So yeah, he's really my filter, my editor, and it is like listening to, not to get too corny, like a yin and yang, having a conversation, honest and raw and soulful. So in this question, this is coming from episode 12, and we were answering a question from a chiro whose marriage was basically, how she put it, if we talk about business, we will get a divorce. So we've just decided to keep our businesses separate and not talk about it at all. He is not a chiropractor and owned another small business, and she kind of referred to him as he thinks he know it all. So this conversation was really good for anybody who is married to someone, whether they're a chiropractor or not, who like maybe you're just not jiving with your communication styles on what's best for the business. We talk about how to respect and listen to each other. And it is also the clip that keeps on giving because it's the first moment we talk about Jason, the husband, giving out puppies. So if you've ever listened to an episode and you're like, what are they talking about? I don't get it. Episode 12, this clip is where that comes from. For a problem that you're seeing within the business, I think it would be good if you came home, like, okay, so here's for instance, you had a bad day, numbers are down, and you come home and you're just pissed off, you're 10% down this month, blah, 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 and you may say like, okay, I just want to vent right now about our numbers. I don't want to hear your solutions right now, but I do think I am ready to set up a lunch meeting with you or a coffee date in which we can spitball some ideas about how we can get more new patients in, because, you know, and then from your standpoint, Jason, of realizing that like it is a chiropractic business and she does know it to a degree that like she lives and breathes it every day in the clinic. So if you say something like give a puppy to every new patient, Jackie, hear that and be like, okay, so what I'm hearing is you think there should be more of an incentive for new patients besides chiropractic. And Jason, she may not give away a puppy. It may be a water bottle. Or,
Jason's always trying to give away puppies.
Jason,
where do you get all those puppies from? That's the real question here.
But,
where
so
does he get
Jason,
them?
you need to then not take that personal of like, she is using your ideas. She's just putting it through this lens and not be like, I told you to give away puppies. You thought it was a stupid idea and you decided water bottles were smarter. You think I'm dumb.
Yeah. You gotta look at it as you're both trying to help, and I think that's where the universal thing comes back to of like the we thing of like we are both trying to build our businesses, and you have to listen to each other and stay pretty calm, because if he comes in with an idea and you go, that won't work, you don't get it. One, Jason, stay calm and go, please explain to me why. And Jackie, you have to actually stay calm too and explain it. Because in your explanation, you may realize that it might work, or he may have a way to make it work. Or
what if she just doesn't have the energy to do that? Like, okay, can we like tangent for a second and talk about like how much energy all of this therapy talk communication actually takes?
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I agree that like one of the people that you love more than anyone in life, or at least the one that you're bound to more than anyone in life, why is it just so difficult to put the energy in to communicate calmly and kindly? Like,
it's really universal too, because like I lose my temper with my parents, or like just get annoyed at like my mom, and you'll be like, that you seem really
you would
mad.
never talk to somebody else that way, but yet, yeah.
Yeah, but it's that thing of like, it's the person who, I think the person you spent so much time with, you go, if this person doesn't get it, is anyone ever going to get it? Like, but you do, it's really hard. It's something that like you have to like see the anger in yourself and like detach from it, which I think I've gotten a little better at with meditation. It helps to like see your emotions, but not be your emotions, I guess. But yeah, none of this is like, well, do this and do it every time and you'll be fine. Like,
yeah, there's going to be you at your best. And that's why I realized that I said something like set up a coffee date or a lunch date, because at the end of the day, I would be willing to guess that most of these fights happen at the end of the day when you have both exhausted your patience and resources with your clients and your clinic patients. And you just don't have anything left to give. Like, you're just at that point of like, I can't.
I think another good thing is having an argument safe word of like, a ripcord thing of we are.
But if you called it depends. That could backfire.
Yeah.
Because if you called a safe word while I was like trying
in
to
the middle of a really good,
like yelling at you, I would be like, you can take your safe word and shove it, you know where. So maybe not, but if that works for you, and I think there might be moments, but like just now is not the time type of thing.
Yeah, or just we're not getting anywhere. We're just kind of talking past each other or yelling at each other. And do you feel any better? And do you feel like I'm going to, even if you make the greatest point in the world, you feel like I'm going to submit right now?
Right.
Like, maybe we should talk about this tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that's, planning those meetings where you can both show up as mature professionals. And so like, just like how you need to show up to that lunch meeting where he's going to give you ideas on new patients, as if you had hired a coach to have lunch with you and give you ideas, he needs to also of like, okay, I'm not going to show up as her husband being like, of course you know, like, it needs to be this artificially professional relationship until you get better at it. Well, that's it, folks. Yes. I know we missed some of your favorites, and I'm very, very sorry. I wish that we could have them all in here. I really, really do. It would just make my little heart explode. For 2020, we'll break out like a 2-part series, so that way it can be longer and we can incorporate more best ofs. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, God bless each one of you who supports me in this. I know I come across like a confident mofo, but your messages and DMs and emails and texts, every single one of them means the world to me. So thank you for your support in 2019, and I cannot wait to do 2020 with you. So until next week, She Slayers, love you all.